Flirting with women is easy, actually. They tell you to just smile, to be polite, to show her you care. But here's the truth. None of that makes a woman feel the spark that flips her stomach upside down. You can be the sweetest, most polite guy in the room, and she'll thank you for the drink before going home with the guy who knew how to tease her, touch her, and keep her guessing. The real difference isn't in what words you say. It's in how you create tension. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to flirt with women in a way that makes them feel you, not just hear you. Flirting is not some cheesy set of lines. It's not memorizing jokes or routines. It's the art of pulling her into your world. Imagine two universes colliding. Hers, built from safety, comfort, and predictability, and yours, sharp-edged, magnetic, and unpredictable. When you flirt, you open a door into that universe. She steps through not because of what you said, but because of how you made her feel while saying it. Think of the person at a party who leans against the wall, waiting. He watches her. He thinks, what do I say? What if I screw up? He circles her like a shadow. And when he finally does approach, he stiffens and throws out something lifeless like, so, do you come here often? She smiles politely, but her energy has already walked away. That's not flirting. That's a transaction. Now picture another guy. He steps into her space like it's the most natural thing in the world. He doesn't hover. He doesn't apologize for existing. His eyes hold hers half a second longer than comfortable. He says something offbeat, something playful. Maybe she's holding a glass of wine, and he tilts his head, smirking, "That looks dangerous in your hands." Suddenly, her lips curl into a smile. Not because of the words, but because he made her feel like they're sharing a private joke, like he sees her in a way others don't. That's flirting. It's electricity created out of thin air. The mistake most men make is this. They think flirting is about performance. They treat it like a test. If I say the right thing, maybe she'll like me. That frame already kills the spark because it puts her on a pedestal and puts you in the position of performer. Women don't want a clown juggling for approval. They want a man who can bend the moment, someone who doesn't just react to her, but creates the interaction itself. Here's the truth most men don't want to swallow. Flirting is not about convincing a woman. It's about revealing yourself in a way that challenges her, teases her, and intrigues her. And yes, sometimes it means risking rejection, but that's the price of tension. You can't create electricity if you're too afraid to flip the switch. When I say tension, I mean that moment when she doesn't know what's coming next. Maybe you tease her about her stubbornness, then soften it with a smile that lingers just long enough. Maybe you lean in close to say something in her ear, then pull back and watch her reaction. It's the push and pull, the dance between comfort and uncertainty. Flirting without tension is like music without a rhythm. Background noise, forgettable. You might wonder, but won't she think I'm being mean if I tease her? That's the insecurity talking. Real flirting isn't about being cruel. It's about being playful. The difference is intent. A man who mocks her out of insecurity comes across as bitter. A man who teases her from a place of fun, who can laugh at himself just as easily, comes across as magnetic. She doesn't feel attacked. She feels alive, like she's sparring with someone sharp enough to keep up with her. So let me hammer this in. Flirting is not logical. It's emotional. You don't flirt to make sense. You flirt to make her feel. Think about it. Has a woman ever told you, "I don't know why, but I just feel drawn to him"? That's flirting at work. It bypasses her rational checklist and dives straight into the part of her that craves thrill.
Here's your first exercise. Next time you're in a casual conversation with a woman, could be a barista, could be a coworker, could be a stranger, insert one playful jab. Nothing heavy, nothing insulting, just something that flips the script. If she says, "I'm having a busy day," you smirk, "Yeah, you look super stressed out sipping that latte." Watch what happens. 9 times out of 10, she'll laugh or push back. That pushback is gold. That's her joining the game. If she doesn't respond, fine. Not every woman will. But the point is, you broke out of safe, sterile small talk. What you'll notice when you try this is your own fear rising up. That hesitation before you deliver the line. That voice saying, what if she thinks I'm weird? What if she doesn't like me? That's the dragon you have to slay. Because the moment you censor yourself, you go back into the category of forgettable men. She might remember you as nice, but women don't go home fantasizing about nice. They fantasize about the man who made their pulse spike, the man they couldn't quite figure out. This is where most men stop. They might deliver one teasing line, but then they collapse back into small talk, afraid to keep the energy alive. Flirting is not a one-shot. It's a rhythm, a back and forth. Think of it like a tennis match. You hit the ball over the net. She hits it back. You escalate a little. She tests you. You don't retreat. You stay in the game. That's when the attraction builds, when both of you are leaning in, waiting for the next serve. And here's the paradox. The more willing you are to lose her, the more likely you are to win her, because women feel that. They feel when a man's words are dripping with neediness, when every line is secretly begging, please like me. And they feel when a man is unafraid to walk away, when his flirting comes from a place of abundance, not desperation. The guy who needs her to validate him, that's the guy who suffocates the spark. The guy who knows he's enough, who flirts because it's fun, because it's who he is, that's the guy she can't get out of her head. Picture this. You're sitting across from her at a dimly lit bar. Music thumps in the background, but in this little bubble between you two, the air feels heavy. She's sipping her drink, her eyes flicking toward you every few seconds, testing. You lean back, calm, shoulders loose, the corner of your mouth curled in that half smirk that says you're not chasing, you're inviting. She asks a question about your job and makes some generic small talk. You don't just answer, you tilt your head, squint a little, and say, you don't strike me as the type who actually cares about my job. You look like you're trying to size me up. She laughs, caught because you saw through her surface and called it out. That's flirting, turning the ordinary into a spark of play. The psychology here is simple but brutal. Women are not turned on by predictability. They are not craving another polite man who answers every question on cue like a resume. They want a man who can take the moment, twist it, and make it feel alive. That's why boring conversations die and magnetic ones live. When you flirt, you're not giving her information, you're giving her an experience. Most men confuse attraction with approval. They think if she nods, smiles, and says, that's nice, it means she's interested. Wrong. That's politeness. That's her way of exiting the interaction without confrontation. Attraction isn't smooth, it's jagged. It's the eye roll mixed with a grin. It's the pushback when you tease her, followed by her leaning closer anyway. If you've ever had a woman punch your arm while laughing or say, you're such a jerk, but not walk away, congratulations, you've crossed the line from polite to flirtatious. But here's where it gets deeper. Flirting is not just about what you say, it's about how you carry yourself while saying it. If your voice shakes, if your eyes dart around like you're afraid of her reaction, the words collapse. Women read subtext better than any man. They don't just hear your words, they feel the current underneath. When you flirt, your body language has to whisper, I belong here. Shoulders back, eye contact steady, pace unhurried. You don't rush your words like you're scared she will interrupt. You let silence hang because you know tension is your ally. The silence is key. Too many men fill every gap with chatter. They think if the conversation goes quiet, they're losing her. Wrong. Silence is where tension breathes. When you say something teasing and then pause, letting her reaction surface, that's when sparks ignite. It's uncomfortable at first, because your brain screams to fill the void. But once you master it, you'll notice women leaning into that silence, waiting for what you'll do next. That's the power of owning the pause. Now, let's smash another myth. The idea that flirting is about compliments. Guys throw them out like candy. You're beautiful. I love your dress. You have pretty eyes. Do these work? Sometimes. But often they flatten the interaction. Why? Because compliments without tension are one-way validation. They tell her, you're up here, I'm down here. Real flirting doesn't worship her, it plays with her. A compliment, if used, has to feel like it slipped out of your mouth, like you couldn't stop it. Delivered too perfectly, it reeks of strategy. Delivered casually, it feels authentic. Imagine leaning in, lowering your voice and saying, "You're trouble, I can already tell." That's a compliment wrapped in a challenge. That's flirting. Here's where most men fail. They filter themselves. They censor every impulse, trying to sculpt the perfect line. But the magic of flirting is in spontaneity. Women can smell rehearsed lines a mile away. The truth is, the actual words matter less than the energy behind them. You could literally say, "You're drinking that way too seriously," with the right grin and tone, and it lands better than any polished pickup artist routine. It's not about cleverness, it's about boldness. So here's your second challenge. For 1 week, stop trying to be clever, stop trying to impress with words. Instead, practice noticing the small things about her expression, the way she holds her drink, the tone in her voice, and flip it into play. If she raises an eyebrow, you smirk. That eyebrow says you don't believe me. If she checks her phone, you grin. Careful, I charge $5 every time someone ignores me for Instagram. You're not reciting lines, you're riffing on the moment. That's how flirting comes alive. And remember, flirting is not about hiding interest. A lot of men confuse teasing with pretending not to care. That's cowardice in disguise. Real flirting mixes play with desire. She has to feel that underneath your jokes and jabs, there's a man who wants her. The glance that lingers a beat too long, the touch on her arm that stays half a second longer than necessary, that's what roots the play in sexual energy. Otherwise, you risk becoming the funny friend instead of the man she craves. Think about the last time you really felt drawn to someone. It wasn't just because they made you laugh. It was because beneath the laughter, there was an edge of what if. That's the energy you must carry. You flirt not just to entertain, but to spark that what if in her mind. What if this guy is different? What if he's dangerous in the best way? What if I let myself fall into his orbit? That's what flirting unlocks. Not approval, but curiosity mixed with desire. There's a dangerous truth here. Flirting reveals you. If you're insecure, if you're needy, if you're pretending, you can't hide it for long. That's why so many men avoid flirting altogether. They stick to safe small talk because it doesn't expose them. But that safety is also their prison. Women don't remember the man who played it safe. They remember the man who was bold enough to tease, to risk, and to turn a boring moment into something charged. So the next time you find yourself face to face with a woman you want, ask yourself this: are you going to give her another polite exchange she'll forget before she finishes her drink? Or are you going to step into the fire, take the risk, and create a moment that lingers in her chest long after you've walked away? That choice is the line between invisible and unforgettable. The final layer of flirting isn't about technique at all. It's about who you are when you show up. You can memorize every clever line, practice your eye contact in the mirror, and rehearse the perfect smirk. But underneath it all, if you're a man begging for permission to exist, none of it sticks. Women don't fall for lines. They fall for energy. They fall for the man who is unshakably himself.
The man who flirts not to get something, but because it's how he moves through the world. Imagine a man who treats flirting not as an act, but as an extension of his personality. He walks into a coffee shop and the barista asks his name for the order. He leans forward slightly, playful. Put, "the handsome one. Let's see if anyone calls it out." The whole shop laughs, and he laughs with them, not to impress, but because he lives in that playful state. Now imagine another man in the same shop. He orders quietly, barely making eye contact, clutching his receipt like it's a shield. Same environment, two completely different realities. Which one do you think women naturally orbit toward?
That's the raw truth. Flirting is not something you turn on when a pretty woman walks by. If you try that, it comes off as fake, try-hard, and heavy. Flirting works when it's woven into your daily interactions, when playfulness and boldness are your default state. Women don't just feel the words you say to them, they feel the life behind those words. If your whole existence is serious, anxious, and controlled, then when you suddenly try to flirt, it's like putting a sticker on a broken wall. It doesn't hold. But if you live with playful energy, then flirting is effortless. This is why self-respect is the foundation of flirting. Because if you don't respect yourself, every line is secretly a plea. And women can smell that desperation. Respect yourself, and suddenly the risk of rejection doesn't feel like death. It feels like a filter. Because when you know your worth, you stop begging for hers. That's when flirting becomes powerful. When you're not chasing her approval, you're sharing your reality. Let's get brutally honest. The reason most men can't flirt is not lack of words. It's fear. Fear of being judged, fear of being rejected, fear of being exposed. They hide behind nice guy behavior, thinking it's safer. But that safety kills attraction. Because if you're afraid to show your edge, she'll never feel your presence. Flirting requires courage. It's not for the faint of heart. It's for the man who looks at fear and still steps in. Here's a mindset shift that will change everything. Stop seeing flirting as a performance. Start seeing it as a test. Not of her, but of you. Every time you flirt, you're testing your own ability to hold tension, to stay grounded, and to reveal yourself without apology. If she laughs, good. If she rolls her eyes, good. If she walks away, good. Because each reaction strips away the layers of insecurity until you realize rejection is not death. Rejection is clarity. And the man who isn't afraid of clarity is unstoppable. Let me paint a scenario. You're standing with her at the bar. You've been teasing and the energy is playful. She suddenly crosses her arms, smirks, and says, "You think you're so smooth, don't you?" In that moment, most men crumble. They stammer, backpedal, and try to convince her. The man who truly flirts doesn't flinch. He leans in, lowers his voice, and says, "No, I don't think I'm smooth. I think I'm in trouble. And you know it." Boom! That's the difference. One man collapses under pressure, the other thrives in it. Which one do you think she remembers? And here's the kicker. Women flirt back. They test, they tease, they poke, not to humiliate you, but to feel you. They want to know, can you handle the fire, or will you retreat into politeness? If you can meet her fire with your own, without bitterness, without fear, then suddenly the entire interaction shifts. You're no longer two strangers making small talk. You're co-creating a spark that both of you feel. That's when her eyes light up. That's when she leans in closer. That's when attraction is born. This is why you can't fake it. You can fake confidence in small doses, you can fake interest, but you cannot fake presence. Presence is what flirting demands. It's not about rehearsed lines. It's about being alive in the moment, sharp enough to catch her cues, bold enough to play with them, and relaxed enough to let it flow. That's why the man who lives fully, who takes risks, who doesn't hide from life, he's naturally the best flirt. Because flirting is just life condensed into a glance, a tease, and a smirk. So here's the final truth. If you want to be great at flirting, Don't just study women, study yourself. Face your insecurities, build your self-respect. Step into spaces that scare you. The man who dares flirts naturally. The man who hides never does. Women don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be real, raw, and unapologetic. They need to feel your energy crackling through your words, through your touch, and through your silence. Because at the end of the day, flirting is not about her. It's about you. It's about whether you're bold enough to stop being invisible, whether you're strong enough to risk rejection, and whether you're alive enough to turn an ordinary moment into one she'll never forget. The men who master this don't just get dates, they shift the gravity around them. Women feel it, men respect it, and the world bends to it. You want to know the ultimate secret of flirting? Here it is. She doesn't fall for the man who tries the hardest. She falls for the man who dares the most. You don't win her by proving yourself. You win her by revealing yourself. And you don't get her by needing her. You get her by never needing anyone to feel complete. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who also cares about this. See you in the next video.